So, there was a time you worked for Exxon.
Yes.
They laid you off. There's a story around that.
Yeah.
And also around that time is also a first book.
Yes.
And this is where you really learned marketing, is because actually your first book, you say it was a disappointment and a celebration because they didn't really market it. So it put it incumbent on you to market your book.
Yes.
And that's where you began to learn marketing and pick up jobs.
Yes.
So
yeah, that's all true. You know, during the time I was in Exxon and I was taking temporary jobs, and they had places like Manpower and temp agencies where you would get a job for a day and they pay you at the end of the day. And some of the jobs would last a week, some of them would last a month. One of them sent me to Exxon, and I worked in their oil and gas department, hanging up reels. There was data off of ships that would come on great big reels. And I was part of the library. Interesting, there was a different library that was influencing me. But it was part of the Exxon library, and I worked there. I didn't particularly care for it, but I didn't have to labor like I did on the railroad. I was inside. I wasn't outside like I was up north. So there was a lot of perks, and they paid every Friday, and there was health benefits and all of that. So I kept writing while I was doing it. And actually, I kept writing, and I kept trying to speak. I was a very nervous speaker. The first time I gave a presentation, there was like 6 people in the room, and I stood against the wall because I was shaking. I was afraid I was going to fall to the ground. Now I speak. I spoke before Donald Trump's group a few weeks ago. There was like 10,000 people there, and I walked on stage and did my song and dance. So you know, even if you have the fear of speaking, I don't care what the fear is, you can get through it, you know, with some practice. So yeah, I did work for Exxon. They hired me after I was there for a while as a temp. They hired me permanently. Permanently because they said, hey, when you work for Exxon, you're part of the family, we'll never let you go. Now, that's good to hear, but when the oil crunches came and all the big oil companies were laying people off, Exxon was slow to lay people off, but they did get around to it. And when they got to me, they said, we don't want to let you go. We'll either let you go with severance pay, or we'll transfer you to another department where you may not care for the people, you may not care for the work, but you'll still be working for Exxon. I saw this as my chance. And I said, I'll take the layoff. Lay me off, let me go. Right about then, I had my first book published, and it was Zen and the Art of Writing. And I'm still proud of that book. It's very hard to find now. It was a limited edition book. It was with a small publisher, but you know, I'm an author who wanted to be published. I'm finally published. I got a book that's published. Cause for celebration. And then there's the disappointment. And the disappointment is I quickly learned publishers don't know how to market books. They know how to print books. They don't know how to market books. That was a big wake-up call. I quickly learned that the average book lasts like 6 weeks. Then it's dead, then it's gone, then it's forgotten. And the book publishing empire is so big and so hungry, there's 2,000 books published every week. Wow. 2,000 books every week. So if you don't do something to make your book stand out in the crowd, you are gone, you are forgotten, and your book is out of print and hard to find. So I learned marketing because I had to. I didn't have any intention of learning marketing. I learned marketing because I needed it for me. I was my own first client. I learned marketing. I learned how to write sales letters and news releases and to achieve book reviews and to do book signings, all kind of things that I found by trial and error. As I became successful with it, my publisher noticed it, and he even said, you've sold more books on your own than we ever have, and that's because I was marketing my book. Other authors noticed it, and they started coming to me and saying, hey, we saw that you sold your own book and you're making money and doing all this stuff. How are you doing it? At first, I started just answering their questions until it dawned on me, that's what a consultant does. I can charge for my answers. So I became a marketing consultant, all because of my first book. And again, that marketing consulting business picked up. I started getting more and more gigs. Again, I'm in Houston, Texas, so I'm getting on my feet. I certainly have not found fame and fortune, but I'm getting on my feet. I have a book published. I'm now speaking about my book.
And what year is this around?
This is around 85, 85, 86. I lose track of time easily, but that's, you know.
Around there.
Ballpark.
Mid-80s.
Yeah, mid-80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first book was published then. The next big change for me was when the internet came along.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is a good story. That you your first success was on the internet. Again, now we're in the early '90s.
That's right.
And initially, you wrote an article that you felt the internet was a scam.
Yes.
And from your article, Internet is a Scam, you got thousands of responses which showed you the power of the Internet.
Yeah, it's very ironic.
Yeah.
But I saw all the people talking about there's gold in cyberspace, you can get rich on the Internet, this, that, and the other, and I didn't see anybody getting rich. And in fact, I was writing an article for DBA magazine in Houston, Texas. DBA means doing business as. It was a respected business magazine, and I wrote a monthly column for them. I didn't get paid anything for it. It was a marketing column, so I got credibility. I got people who noticed me. It was like a free ad. And I remember that NASA, which was right down the road from Houston, called and said, we want to give you a tour of the Internet. Come on down and we will give you a private tour of it on our computers. Well, how can I turn down NASA? So I went to NASA. They wanted me to write this article about making money on the Internet. I walk into this great big room, and there's a computer there with a big monitor, and it's showing me the picture of the Earth. And I'm looking at it, and they said, that's the Internet. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, we are looking at the Earth with the Internet. And because of the Internet, we can tell what the weather is anywhere on the planet. Well, I almost laughed out loud because I thought, if I wanted to know what the weather was, I can get it from the weather report. And most of the time, it's all wrong anyway. Right. The only way to really know what the weather is I just go there, and I find out that, oh, yeah, Maui is beautiful today, or Texas is cold today. I find out because I get there. I found it totally useless. I did not see that there was any value in knowing what the weather was on the planet when I was sitting in Houston. So I went back and wrote my article saying, I don't believe you can make any money on the Internet, not based on what I've seen. And that article got posted on the Internet. There were websites. CompuServe was a big provider at that point, like AOL. I don't even know if CompuServe is around anymore. I doubt it. And 1,000-some people downloaded my article overnight. They liked my article, and they started writing me saying, I like the way you think. I notice you write sales letters and news releases and do marketing campaigns. How much do you charge? Well, I started making money on the Internet. Because I was creating relationships and meeting and reaching people I would not have reached otherwise. You know, I was in a small town, so to speak, doing my thing when I was in Houston. By having what I was doing in Houston put on the Internet, I was able to reach the globe. And that was a taste of something really big. It still wasn't as life-transforming as the next thing that was going to happen after that.
Which is meeting Mark Joyner?
Yeah, Mark Joyner. Mark Joyner was running a company out of California, Aesop Marketing. He was a big fan of my work. He had bought my books. He had bought some audios that I made him in my bedroom. I made some audio cassettes in my bedroom, packaged it, sold them for like $500. Mark was one of the first people to buy them. And Mark would write to me, and he would say, I love you, I love your work. He says, can you give me a text file, one of your books or an article or something? I want to sell it as an ebook. Now, at that point in time, again, I don't know, 95 for this, 96, somewhere in there. Nobody knew what an ebook was, including me. And I had to ask, you know, at that point it was nothing more than a text file that you would open on your computer and you would read it. It was an electronic book, an electronic file. Well, me being a book addict, it's like I want to hold the book. The only real book is the one you can hold. You flip through the pages, that is real. Ebook, that doesn't exist in my head. So again, showing how smart I was, I said, I don't think ebooks are going to sell. So I told him no. He was very polite, very professional, and very persistent. And he kept writing to me for 2 years, asking me repeatedly, just give me an ebook, give me something. Finally, to shut him up, I gave him an old manuscript of mine that I used to sell in the back of the room. It wasn't a published book. It was called Hypnotic Writing. I gave it to Mark. Mark thanked me. He wrote a sales letter for it. He put it on a website. He turned the manuscript into an ebook. And I went and read the website. And I'll tell you, Steve, I read that copy, the sales copy, and I wanted to buy my own book. It was that strong. It gets even better.